understanding hemoglobin, how it functions. And when you see it, it was amazing, you know. It took about 50 years to understand this one protein in the body, how it functioned, let alone the tens of thousands of individual proteins, like little machines of different sizes that function in your body, working together to give you, on the physicalness of yourself, a living being. And yet they're mindless, they're not thinking what they're doing, but they work together to do it. It was fascinating. And it made me think, like if this little hemoglobin is so specific in its physical structuring, how it actually physically shifts its structure in order to carry an oxygen molecule and then to release an oxygen molecule. It's like, wow. I mean, and you can't even see one of those things. You can't see it. You can't even see it with a telescope, with a microscope. Maybe you can see it with an electron microscope. I mean, it's so tiny. And yet, on that tiny thing with tens of thousands of tiny, tiny little machines are functioning on that level to give, and within me. And I have no control over them. I have no control over them. My mind doesn't control each one. All that made me think, like, wow. I mean, I know that this Starbucks coffee is complex. I know it was crafted. And yet it's actually so much simpler than the structure of a hemoglobin in many ways, on levels of structure. And yet, I can physically see that and hold it in my hand. Those things made me begin to think. And I think that way. I believe in God, not because I came to the conclusion there must be a God, but then I followed up with that by examining. I think your faith, you have to believe, you have to be able to rationalize there's a God, but there also has to be your experience of God. I think religion, heavenly religion, is God's mechanism to take us from, yeah, I'm there, to now you can know more about me as I am. So there can be, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, praise be to God, the originator, the nurturer, the master, the originator of Al-Alameen, the realm of the signs. There's that notion of God. I saw that at university. Then there's this notion of God. Innani ana Allah la ana. This is where God says, I am God. There is no God but me. That takes it from God being, big, creator, to God being individual and personal and speaking to my I-ness. And so I bring those together. And I think they work together. They mesh that way. You mesh them together, then your faith goes from a rational approach to more of a personal, experiential approach and a fullness of true human experience of things. Because humans don't just see things physically. We see things also emotionally, psychically, on different levels, at higher levels. So the Quranic God addresses us from both levels. See me as creator and see me as personal and individual. And those things are how we are human beings. And as for your second question, how about evil? I mean, that's a good question. And that's probably the big question that we struggle with, is how do you explain evil in the world? You can have a seat right now. So let me talk about that. That's an important question. I think one of the problems that when that question is asked is that it basically comes down to an immature understanding of the nature of God on one level. Let's put it like this. When the tsunami happened in 2004 and thousands of people died, some people said the tsunami was an evil occurrence. But I mean, you can't describe evil to a tsunami. It's not like it's not like, you can describe it as evil this. If the United States intentionally took a nuclear explosive down to the rift area there, and they initiated that action in order to create a slip in the slip zone there, and that resulted in an earthquake which produced a tsunami, then you could say it was an evil act. But that's because you've applied an intelligent agent to it in some way. But to say that an earthquake like that is happening causally, even if you're an atheist, is evil, that's not evil. It's just a happenstance, and that's what happens in physics and stress issues. So you can't call that evil. You understand the difference there on that? So evil, if a lion kills a gazelle, do you call that evil? No. No one calls that evil. But if you see a little boy across the street taking a toad, a little boy across the street. If you see a little boy across the street catching a toad and then putting a big rock on it to crush it, do you call that natural selection? You call it evil? What do you call it? You'd call that an evil act, wouldn't you? And you tell that boy, don't do that. What? Do you go tell a lion, don't kill gazelles? We never say it to a lion, because lions, that's what lions do. Now, if a rock fell naturally due to rain on that toad, would you call that evil? No, you wouldn't. But if a little boy goes and pushes the rock on the toad, you call that evil. So evil is very much associated with purpose and intelligence behind it. Keep that in mind. But then, but Naim, there you go. You see, God must be evil. Hold on a second. So on some things in life, God may make them happen. And they do happen. The tsunami, from any theistic perspective, on some level, you'd have to say God was involved. Now, there are some people who say, no. You know, God doesn't do things like that, and that's just nature. There's God and there's nature. But that person is living around with us, and this is where Muslims have a problem with that. Because if a Muslim says that, you're saying, okay, well, you know, oh, I can walk around. I like to walk around. Hey, that man. Look at the shadows. This is so weird. I feel like Justin Bieber. How does he do it? Driving around in a gated community in his Lamborghinis, threatening his neighbors, whatever he does. I suppose if I had $65 million, I might buy a Lamborghini, a green one for the masjid. Just so all the other boys get jealous. And they make me president of the mosque because I was the richest guy. Then I can do what I wanted. Which often happens in our communities, right? That's a discussion. Where was I at before I went on my little commentary? So, Justin Bieber, I was before Justin Bieber. I was standing up because I got tired of sitting. Where was I at? What was it? Your question. So evil, you have to be careful when you talk about evil and natural occurrences. We call it nature. So if some people who believe in God strongly would say, but God is not involved in that. But this is not a Muslim approach towards things, okay? Because as Muslims, we can't believe that there are things in the universe where God isn't involved in, because that means we have a weak God. And if you need to understand that, you need to have a class here at your mosque with young people on basic Sunni theology about the nature of God, and you discuss those things. And I don't have time for that. You might want to read Aqidah Tahawiyya or something like that and go through that discussion on the nature of God. The Qudra of God, the Irada of God, etc., etc. The power of God, divine will, etc. But I don't have time for that. We won't do that today. So, but then it comes to this question. In this creation, there are things that are outside of our control. When a supernova occurs, it may be really bad for the solar system around that star because it gets wiped out. But that evil occurrence, that bad event of a star going off, is actually quite good. What happens when a star goes supernova? What gets made? Huh? What gets made? You know? What do stars make? They make what inside them beyond light? They make helium and lithium, they make iron and carbon and potassium, right? Do we need those things in our life? Do we live on a carbon-based planet? We certainly do. Carbon is very important. What's the last thing a star can make if it doesn't go supernova? It can make iron. But big stars can make things above iron on the periodic chart. And we need those things. All that uranium that found in the Earth's inner core, where there is radioactive decay, and one way that Allah manifests heat in the Earth's core is so that uranium and other high, heavy elements break down. They have half-lives, very random, we can't determine which one's going to happen. And that breakdown from uranium to lead produces heat, radiation, and that keeps the Earth's core hot. So Allah works that way. It's part of Allah's means, right? Now, where did uranium come from? It came from stars that had supernova explosions. That's what we understand today. That's how God makes it. God's still involved. I didn't take God out of the equation. That's my theology kicking in. So we see that the destruction of a star may be really bad for its local solar system. If our star goes supernova, it may make some uranium, which may someday in another planet be a good thing for it. But for us, it was a bad day that day. The day the sun, we get locked out. So for us, it was a cataclysmic bad event, but the outcome is actually good. So from whose perspective is it bad? It's sort of relativistic. It's like, whose perspective are you seeing it from? Is it bad this way, bad that way? But then there are other issues beyond earthquakes and supernova. Those are issues like some man in some country, a group in a country, intentionally killing people without any just cause. Not because those people were violent, it's because they don't like them, or starving them, or doing things to them. That is evil. We call evil. Well, then you may ask the question, well, why does God let that happen? Well, you got two choices here. One answer is this. How many pins you got there? Which one do you want? You want one? Say yes. Play along. Which one do you want? There you are. Which is the first? From my perspective, I'm going from right to left. You going from right to left from your perspective? I say that, you say that one. Which one do you want? You want that one? Okay, I'll give you that one. Why do you want that one? Why did you choose that one? Huh? Here, be Justin Bieber for a moment.
Other people getting their pins here.
Okay, so you want one. So here's your pin. There you go. There you go. Just take with your right hand. Why are you choosing your left hand? So there it is. Choice. He chose that. Do you believe that he was forced to do that? Was he compelled to make that choice? Do we still call it a choice? It is, isn't it? It's a real choice. Do you think he was compelled to do that? Could he have been compelled to do it? Maybe he's got an earphone right here, and his dad's back there saying, if you don't take the one on the right, you are going to get beat up and get beat. And maybe that's the reason why it happened. He could have been compelled to do that. But let's assume I don't see any phones, no one's whispering in his ear. I see a kid here. He made a choice to do that. You glad you have that choice? You glad you have that choice? Answer.
Yes.
You like him making choices, don't you? Matt, how many kids here like to be told to make their bedroom every day? Who likes that? Who likes to feel compelled? Who wants to go to prison? Who wants to go to prison? Who wants to live in a place where you are told when to go to sleep? You are told when to eat. You are told what to eat. You are told how to spend your day. Who wants to live like that? No, none of us do. Because we value individuality, we value our independence, our ability to choose. That may be a reason why there is evil from human beings. If God just interfered, He would take away something from us that is truly godly. Can God be compelled to do something? Can He be compelled? Can we force God? If all humanity was to all point our fingers collectively at Allah, oh Allah, you have got to put an agenda. Is that going to change anything? No. Do you believe that God can be coerced, put down, beat up in a wrestling match in a metaphorical way? No way. No way it's going to happen. Our belief in God is that. But does God have choice? Allah says, I chose you to Musa alayhi salam. Mustafa's called al-Mustafa. He is the chosen one. God selected him. Is that true? It's true. That language of choice, istafa, ikhtiyar, is in the Quranic narrative. It's in the tradition of Islam. We speak of God having will, irada, and mashia. Do you have will? Do you have will? No, you do. Does that tree have free will to do what it wants exactly? Like you? No. It has a type of autonomy, but not like yours. Is that true? Would you rather be that? Maybe you'd like to be that on the Yom Qiyamah. Because why? Because easy judgment. Because that has no will by which you want to be asked about. But there's the one thing as a Muslim that understand when you talk these questions about like this issue of evil. God has, I'm speaking as just a Muslim guy in the sense thing. God has poured out upon you, fill up that machine. God has poured out upon you qualities. And those qualities I call the godly qualities. Free will is one of them. You have free will. That's a divine exclusive parameter. But God has bequeathed it to you in a form. It's not pure, 100%. I cannot will. Oh, I can will to lift that tree, but I don't have the qudra, the capacity to lift the tree. So I have the will, but not the capacity. I have the will to convince you that God exists, but I don't have the capacity to do that. So we have mirrored, reflective, partial will, for example, and choice. And that is a godly quality. And so Allah gives that to us. Now, if Allah took that away, well, what would make us different than this bottle of water? We exist, there we are, that's all we do. And this bottle of water only does what I want it to do. I pushed it here, I pushed it there, I pushed it there. Now the bottle of water doesn't even know what's happening. So that's the one thing. It's totally oblivious to me doing this. Is that what you want to be? God doesn't want that because God's not that way. So Allah has given us these qualities. So when Allah gives us this quality of choice, it comes with a problem with it. You can make choices. So I can choose to take the pen that you have in your hand. I can choose to step in the eye of it right now. I can choose to write over your t-shirt. Or I can choose to go up on the board, on the wall here, I've got a whiteboard, and write you a message. I can choose all those things. I can use it for your harm